Hello and welcome to How to Homeschool in High School, the podcast focused on encouraging and equipping you to homeschool through high school, hosted by a high school teen. My name is Nadine Laufer, and today we're talking all about dual enrollment. As most of my faithful listeners know, I talk a lot about dual enrollment. It is one of my favorite things, and every time I can mention it on an episode, I do. And I always say it is my favorite opportunity, and I think every high schooler should do it. But I've never really gotten to go deeply into why I think that is true. So today we're going to fix that problem. We're going to talk at length on why dual enrollment is the best experience you can have as a homeschool high schooler. And this is not just me saying this. Like, there are a lot of people who are talking about dual credit, dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, whatever you have heard it. I've heard it a lot of different ways. The college that I go to calls it dual enrollment, and my friends of mine call it dual enrollment. So that's what I've always said. But it also is concurrent enrollment, dual credit, and early college. I've heard it. Well, I looked it up. That's what they said are the different ways to say dual enrollment. But anyway, it's not just me saying this. There are other people in the homeschool community who are as passionate, or maybe even more passionate than I am, about the dual enrollment experience. And one of those people is Mr. Andrew Pudawa. For those of you who are familiar with IW, you've heard his name a lot. He is very famous among the homeschooling community, and he's been talking about dual enrollment for a long time. So we're going to talk about what he has to say about dual enrollment, but also what was my experience and what is my best advice for those of you who are dual enrollment students or who are going to be dual enrollment students. So it's a great episode packed with a lot of information. So let's just get right into it. So first, let's just talk about what dual enrollment is. Dual enrollment is when a high school student is attending college and taking college credit while still in high school. So they're pretty much dual enrolled. They're enrolled in high school and they're also enrolled in college. So I never thought it was possible until a friend of mine, she took dual enrollment classes at a local college, and she was, I think, maybe a sophomore in high school when she started. And I remember thinking, she's so mature and she's having so much fun and she's learning so many cool things and she's taking classes with college students when she's in high school. To me, that idea just, it's just not possible. It's just not what we do. But she was having so much fun. She was learning so many things. And, she was a homeschooler and she was socializing with other college students and she was doing fine. It gave me a lot of hope. It gave me a lot of excitement. And it made me want to look into doing something like this. And then more and more of my homeschooling community started doing dual enrollment. Pretty much every single senior I've interviewed on this podcast has done at least one dual enrollment class in their high school years. It is very, very common for homeschoolers to do. And it's also common for public schoolers to do. But the reason why I see it growing more in the homeschool movement is we just have the better schedule. We can adapt more to the pace of a college class. I've been in class with other public schoolers, especially online classes, and they have to go and find like a janitor's closet to do their schoolwork in, like to go on live classes, because there's no other quiet place in their school. So they're doing school from the closet, like with the mops and everything. And I just think that's just a little too much. Like, I don't know how I would handle that as a conventional schooler, but a homeschooler, we've got a lot more time on our hands to be able to devote to doing college classes well, to not having to be in a closet and doing our homework. So it's just a great fit for homeschoolers. And honestly, in my opinion, and in the opinion of others, it makes more sense. Why is that? Well, Mr. Pudawa, who I mentioned before, whenever he talks about dual enrollment, he pretty much just presents it as a way of us just not doing high school. He pretty much says, don't do high school. And the first time I heard that, I was like, oh no, because I take what he says very seriously. I think anytime you have an opportunity to listen to him, especially as a homeschooler, you should, for sure. And I had the podcast at the time and I was wondering, okay, what do I do? He says not do high school, and I have a podcast called How to Homeschool in High School. Like, do I need to rebrand, or I took it a little too far? But what he's saying is pretty much under the umbrella of doing high school differently, rethinking the way we view education. To paraphrase what he was saying, if you can write well, if you can read well, if you can do basic math well, then you are ready to take a college class. Because in my experience, the rigor level of a normal high school class and the rigor level of an entry-level 101 college class are pretty equal, honestly. It's kind of strange, and every time I do it, I'm like, okay, this, I was fully prepared for this, but I could have taken it a year ago. I could have taken it 2 years ago, especially writing 101. I could have definitely done that, maybe even my freshman year of high school. So we are ready for way more than what I think we are as high schoolers. And I think it's just over 150 years we've just had this thing called high school between middle school and college, and we're just so used to the idea. Like for me, the idea that my friend was in college when she was only 16 was crazy to me. But now it's become so second nature, and I've seen so many of my friends go through it, and they're so prepared and ready. So when Mr. Pudawa says that, we're ready for things, we're ready for this, he's right. We are. So in some ways, this episode is me telling you, just don't do high school. do enrollment. I have a list actually of 9 different reasons why I think dual enrollment is an irreplaceable experience in the life of the teenage high school homeschooler. But the first thing I want to do is I mentioned before that the rigor level academically was pretty much the same as an entry level 101 class at a high school. And I do want to say that there is a difference in the how intense the class is compared to a high school class, because in high school it's stretched out from August to May, so it's really, really long. In college, it's August to December, so you're taking this year-long course and squishing it into a semester. So instead of learning a lesson a week, you're learning 3 lessons a week. So that is where the difference lies. That's whenever I started dual enrollment, and I started in calculus, and it was very different for me than taking pre-calculus as a high school student. Even though the math and academically, I was prepared for calculus, the intensity, the amount of homework I had, the amount of lessons I had, the amount of information I was putting in my head a week was very different for me. It took a minute of adapting to the rhythm of college. I really do feel like there's a rhythm you have to get into, adapting to the later nights studying and the early mornings getting up. So there was a little bit of change, definitely a change. So I'm not saying it's completely the same and that you won't have struggles and it won't be intense and different. I'm not saying that, but we are ready academically. I think a lot of us are for a college level course. So this is me just giving you a little bit of a, hey, you should look into this because you might have a lot of fun, and why not just do it? If you're ready and you can get a college course done and a high school course done at the same time, why not just go for it? It's a really, really cool superpower I think homeschoolers have that we don't really tap into as much as possible. So back to my list of 9 reasons why you should do dual enrollment. We'll start with the number 1 that I have, which I don't remember, so bear with me here. Oh yes, one of my favorite things to talk about. If you do not know if you want to go to college or not, this is the way that you will find out, because it's not like you're reading about college or you're going to one class, like a mock class, or you're learning it from other people. Like, this is first-hand experience with a college, with the rhythm of college, the pace of college, the content of college, and you get to realize, okay, hey, yes, I could see myself doing this for 4 years, or no, this is not for me. And you can also figure out what major you want to go into. I tell this story at least once before. I'm going to tell it again now because it's a great story. And it illustrates this point perfectly. My friend thought she wanted to be a nurse. And so she took dual enrollment classes and started in Nursing 101 and trying to get work away at some of these classes she was necessary for her major. So she took Nursing 101 and she really, really, really did not like it. Like, not at all. So as a junior, she was taking this class in high school. And she realized, I actually don't want to be a nurse. So either in her next semester or in her senior year, she took Education 101, Intro to Education, and she absolutely loved it. And now she's studying secondary education, and she's thriving. She's in the perfect spot. That is something she would have figured out her first year of college, but she figured it out in high school, and now she's just one step ahead. So this is a great way to determine your major. So along with taking those core classes like writing and history and English or whatever you're taking for high school that you want to just get done as a college course, as a college credit, you can also work your way around some of these 101 major classes like, psychology 101, sociology 101, intro to education, physics 101, whatever it is that you're thinking about going into. This is a great way to kind of get your feet wet and also get a college high school credit done. So if you're, you need a science credit and you're thinking of going into a science, just go ahead and take chemistry 101 or biology 101 or physics 101 to get that done. And you can still you can determine, hey, is this something I actually want to study for the next 4 years? For me, same experience. I thought I was going to be an engineer. So I started in calculus and then this year I did physics and calculus too. And over the course of that time, I was exposed to a lot of different engineers. I heard a lot about what their classes they were taking, and I was decided that it was not for me. So that whole experience did shape the major I chose now, which was physics. And I did take physics 101 and I loved it. So that just affirmed my decision. Again, dual enrollment is a great way to not just read about it and to learn about it, but to actually do it and to actually see if this is something that you want to do. It is a great way because a college is a huge investment, right? It's a huge investment of not just money, but also time. 4 years is a lot of time. So in doing this is kind of like at a lower cost, like 1/3 of the cost, which is my next point, is it costs less to take these classes. You're determining whether or not this is a good investment of your time and money and resources and energy. Is this really what you want to do? Because college, again, is definitely not the path for everyone. And this, I hope, would help a lot of people determine and not make the mistake of going to college if that's not something that's, right for them. This would be a great way to see firsthand. And it's not just you taking the classes, it's also you watching the freshmen. Like for me, I never took an intro to engineering class, but I talked to a lot of engineering students. And because of my time with them, I realized I don't think this is for me. I also learned a lot from the failures of the freshmen around me. What worked for them? If I saw a freshman that was really, really, really succeeding, and this was in-person dual enrollment, I would go up to them and I would ask them, how do you structure your day, or how do you structure your semester so you're on top of your assignments or whatever? You just seem like a very, very confident student. And I would just watch these people to understand what is their method of success, what worked for some people, what doesn't work for others. I really got a behind the scenes look at what it's like to go to college. I think that was an irreplaceable experience in my life. I would not trade it for anything. Even the hard parts that came with it, it was so worth it for me to see really what college was behind like the aesthetic or kind of the, in the clouds view of what college is like. I really got to see firsthand what is it like to be a college student. That I just covered like 5 of my points without even realizing it. So it was you get to find out if you want to go to college. Maybe 2, it costs less. 3, it helps determine your major. I went through all of these. 4, okay, it helps get core credits out of the way, and potentially you can graduate early, which is another story of a friend of mine who is planning on majoring in exercise science. To get to where she wants to go, she needs to get a master's degree. So she is using this time in high school to get as much college credits courses done so she can graduate maybe a year early. I think she wants to go a year early so she can get started on her master's degree sooner. That's what she's doing with her time as a dual enrollment student. So this is another great thing to do. Potentially graduate early. At this point, I could graduate a semester early with the amount of college credits I've gotten. What else do I have here? Number 5. You get to know the college and the faculty. So I took dual enrollment classes at the college I want to go to. So as a freshman going in next year, I will know a lot of faculty in my major, and I will also know the campus really well, and I also have friends already on campus. And that was all accomplished through dual enrollment. I mean, when you're in person, you get a student ID, you get a computer, you get access to everything the college kids get access to, like even the dorm rooms. I could get into some of the dorm rooms, I was like, oh wow, this is very interesting. But you're a college student, even though you're not. It's such a cool experience. And you get to know a lot of people. So I know a lot of the faculty. They know me, they know my work ethic, they just know how I learn, whatever. I just feel like I have already been to college my first year. It's such a weird feeling. I'm so grateful for it. But yeah, that's another plus of doing this is in person on campus dual enrollment. Okay, and then what's next? Oh yes, dual enrollment is a great way to get in the habit of working around deadlines, getting things done early, practicing good time management, also working with teams. I know for me, again, I really am a STEM person, so I enjoy doing labs. All of my labs in high school have been solo labs in my kitchen at home, which has been so much fun. But as a dual enrollment student, I was in a lab with a group of students who I was supposed to work with using equipment I've never used before. So this was a really great opportunity for me to get my feet wet in that area, because a lot of these kids already knew how to use all of the equipment that was presented before them, even if they were freshmen, because their schools had them. And I do not see this as a reason why not to homeschool at all, because we are so, I think, adaptable. Like I just watched them. They explained it really well, and I learned how to use it. So there was no big deal with me not knowing how to use them originally. But anyway, I'm grateful for that experience. I'm also grateful for my at-home, my pace, self-initiated labs that I did in high school. I would not replace them. So there is a place for each experience, I think, in the life of the homeschooler. And then it looks great on a resume. I talk about AP classes sometimes with homeschoolers. It is possible for us to do them, but in my opinion, just do dual enrollment. I don't know why you would do AP classes when you could just take an actual college course at an actual school and get college credit for it without having to take a test at the end of the year. I just think I don't know. In my opinion, just do dual enrollment. I think that's just my opinion in most areas. But anyway, I'm not biased at all. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it, because I had learned from freshmen as my last point, and I already stated that before. So those are all the reasons why I think it is extremely worth your time to look into dual enrollment and to actually do dual enrollment. So now, if I've convinced you, let me tell you how to get involved with dual enrollment. So I have made a list of steps that I took to get involved with dual enrollment. So we're just going to go over them, and I'm going to give you some tips. So this is kind of like also not just my steps for doing dual enrollment, but also my advice for you if you do end up doing dual enrollment, because I have learned a lot from 2 years of this experience. Okay, first off, you have to find a college. And this could be a college near you where you want to go in person. If you can't get to a school, or if you don't have your driver's license yet, online dual enrollment is probably the way for you. And in all honesty, I started as an online student, and I believe it is a great transition between homeschooling and then the dual enrollment experience, because there is, like I said, a change in the how much we're learning per week, how fast the course is. There's a change in that. So it's nice to be at home where there's a little bit more flexibility in when you can do your lectures and when you can do your homework. If you're going in person, you have to be there every day at 9 a.m. or something like that. So it's a lot more strict in where you can be. You're not at home anymore. So I think it's a great transition to start as an online student. So if you're looking into dual enrollment, I would maybe start online, unless you have a college near you that you're absolutely sure that you want to go to, and just jump in there. That's totally cool. For me, it worked better with my personality as well. I'm more of an introvert, so I just kind of wanted to be at home for the first part of it. So that's kind of a little bit of a difference between the in-person versus the online dual enrollment. But find a college, find a school. And this is important. You must look, especially online, to make sure they have the class that you want to take. Because I know from my school that I took, sometimes they didn't have everything that I needed. So you might need to look outside of one. You might just need to hop around a little bit. And that's the great thing with online, is you can take from a bunch of different schools and get the best of the best classes. If you're interested in looking at different colleges, this is a great way to determine if I actually like the college I might want to go to, is just find an online dual enrollment program, take a college course there, and see what you think. See if you like the college or not. If you're going to in-person classes, then just, find a school near you, see if they allow dual enrollment students to come and take classes with them. Yeah, so this is just, very, very personal to you. Find the school that you want to go to. I will link in the description some of the online schools that my friends and I have used and enjoyed their classes. So if you're looking for an online school, just check in the show notes. So yes, make sure they have your class. Make sure that the in-person college, they will allow you to take dual enrollment classes. And the second step is use the website of the school you've chosen to find information about dual enrollment. My school had a whole web page for dual enrollment students, whole section of their website. If they don't have that, then I would just email them and ask for more information. And then usually they'll have, like for me, I had to sign in, I had to apply to be a dual enrollment student. And I looked back over this recently to see if there was any documents I needed. I don't think so. I think all I had to do was put in my information, my high school information, which I just had to put homeschooled. And then they have to approve your application. At least that was my experience. I don't know if that's for everyone. I think it is, though. I think it is. The thing I would say for that is if you're planning on doing dual enrollment the fall of 2024, I would get on that as soon as possible because there is a deadline. Now, I think the deadline for me was August, so it is far away. But if you are like me and like to be on top of things to save yourself some stress, then I would get on that for sure. Oh, you know what, though? Because I know for in-person dual enrollment, it opens May 1st for our college. So I would get on that if I were you. Just, do some research, start now so you're not like totally stressed out about it when the deadlines come. But there are deadlines to watch out for. Number 3 is pick your classes. So this is going to be extremely specific for you and your needs because I'm going to give you 3 different ways that I've seen my homeschool community use dual enrollment. And there are different ways in which you can use it. The first one being, I have a class in high school that I need a credit for. Let me just take it as a college student. And you don't necessarily have a major in mind. You don't necessarily know what you want to do. So you're just going to do a common like staple class to get a high school credit out of the way. For me, this was what I was going to do this semester. I needed a credit of English. I'm going into a STEM major. I already did my writing 101 class, so I just said, okay, let me do creative writing. I didn't need it for my major. It was going to be an elective, but I didn't need it for my major. I needed it for high school. It ended up getting canceled. That's why I'm not doing it. But that's one way to approach dual enrollment. What is the class in high school I need? Let me just get it through a college. The second way I've seen kids use dual enrollment is the story I told you earlier of a friend of mine who's going in to be an exercise science major, and she's just getting as much done as possible for her major in order to graduate early. If that is your goal, then there is a different level of intensity you're going to approach dual enrollment classes with. One that I didn't have, but one that my friend does have, where she's taking 3 to 4 classes every semester in order to get as much school out of the way for her when she does enter as a college freshman. So that is another way to approach dual enrollment. And the third and final way is to decide your major. So kind of just hop around and choose different classes from different majors that you're interested in and find out which one you think you like the best. So those are just 3 ways in which you can use dual enrollment. I know I kind of used a mashup of a lot of different ones. I did get necessary college credits out of the way for my major. I also did things that apply to my high school transcript. I just want you to get a feel for how similar this is to everything I talk about regarding high school homeschooling, which is it can be incredibly specific to you, incredibly flexible to what your interests are, and incredibly unique to you. So everyone's going to use dual enrollment differently. It's just like another one of your curriculums you would get, except this time you're dual enrolled. So you're enrolled in college and high school, and you're banging out things in college to make your life easier when you get there. Before we leave this topic, I do want to mention one thing. Usually you get, whenever you apply to be a dual enrollment student, you get an academic advisor. I recommend, if you're struggling with what classes to take to help chip away at your major, that you contact your academic advisor for a very, very specific reason. So there is always a chance that whenever you take these core level classes, if you don't take enough of them, you could actually hinder your college progress. In an effort to get ahead, you might actually put yourself behind. Real life example, I did that to myself. So as I said, I did Calc 1 in my junior year. I did Calculus 2 in my senior year. And I also did Physics 101 in my senior year. I am not taking Physics 102. I'm a physics major. I will enter college next year, and I will take my first semester without taking a single physics class because I have to wait for my second semester to take Physics 102. So I can't actually get ahead in my studies. If I would have taken Physics 102 this semester, I would have access to so many other classes, but I don't. So there isn't always a chance that that will happen. To best avoid that happening, I would suggest contacting your academic advisor. Another example is that same friend of mine I keep talking about, who is an amazing dual enrollment student. She took so many classes as a dual enrollment student, and she needed one. She needed Intro to Exercise Science. If she didn't get into that class this semester, she would have had absolutely nothing to take her first year of college because she had taken so many core classes, but she needed that one in order to build off of it as a prerequisite to get into other classes. I say this not to scare you, because it's not something that's scary at all. It's just something to be aware of. Like for me, I will fill my first semester with so many other things, I won't even notice the physics class isn't there. Like, it's not a big deal for me. For her, it was an extremely big deal because it was just like a very, very, very interesting situation. I mean, amazing. She's gotten so much done. She's amazing. But she needed that class. So that's always a chance that something like that will happen. Just go ahead and contact your academic advisor if you're curious or if you're concerned. They're there to help you. I have had many emails and meetings with her. She's been very helpful to me. So the fourth thing, and this is where it turns into advice. So now you've applied to be a dual enrollment student, you got your application in, you picked your classes, you got them all scheduled and lined up, and you're getting closer to August. And you start getting emails from this college telling you, okay, hi, welcome to the class. Like, your professor's emailing you, and they're giving you things, they're giving you books you need to order, they're giving you something called a syllabus. And for those of you who are a lot smarter than me, probably know what a syllabus is already. For me, this is a fun story. I did not know what a syllabus was, and I did not know the level of importance of reading syllabus. So I've never told this story before. This should be fun. So last semester, right? I've been taking dual enrollment classes for a year. I should know more than I did. So I start physics, and it's a pretty long syllabus. So I didn't read it fully in the extent that I should have. But I get the syllabus, and for those of you who don't know what a syllabus is, it's just a kind of like an overview of the class. It goes over everything, like from homework to test grades to schedules to what is going to be accomplished in the class, what is necessary for the student to accomplish in the class. Like, it's just a broad overview of very, 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 very important information, and you should definitely go read it. But I didn't read it in the full extent that I needed to, and so I show up for class for 2 weeks, and I'm doing great, doing the homework, participating in class, whatever. So 2 weeks in, I go to class, and my teacher is talking about a subject, and he turns around to us and he says, was there a quiz on this? And then my heart stops beating for a second. I'm like, quiz? Wait, what? We'd never had a quiz in class. And in my other class, we were having quizzes every week. We never had one in physics. And so and he was like, oh, is there quizzes? And I said, I couldn't answer because I didn't know. And some of the people in my class were nodding yes. Like, I think so. And he's like, okay, good. And I'm like, quiz? Wait, what? So I stay after class because I cannot. I'm so concerned that I missed these quizzes. I don't know where they are. I don't know what they are. So I stay after class and I go up to my teacher and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Where are these quizzes? What are they? So he shows me, and here he's given us pre-class videos, which I've watched before I go to class, but underneath those pre-class videos were quizzes. He graciously opened them up for all of us that stayed behind to ask about these quizzes, and I was able to complete all of them. Praise the Lord that happened. But it turns out that as soon as I left class, I opened the syllabus up, and there is a section of the syllabus labeled quiz. And it told me exactly where they were, how to find them, and what they were, and what I was expected to do. So, long story short, to avoid that level of stress and complete and total ignorance that I had, read the syllabus in its entirety, highlight it, make sure you understand it. If you don't understand something, contact your teacher, which is my next point of advice for you. Reach out to your teacher, establish communication between you and your teacher as soon as possible. Sometimes I would wait too long for this to happen. To avoid that mistake, as an in-person dual enrollment, I made sure to go to their office hours to say, hey, I'm a dual enrollment student. I'm, so excited to take your class or whatever, just to establish communication with me and my professor. made a lot of difference, made the class a lot more fun because I knew I could go and ask them for help whenever I was struggling with something, and they knew who I was in class. All of those things, open communication, very, very important. So if you have a question, make sure to email your teacher and just kind of introduce yourself. So reach out to your teacher. Another great point. So in other words, if you take anything from this episode, make sure to read your syllabus. And I also want to mention on that topic, if there's software you have to download, especially if you are a STEM class and they're going to ask you to program, math class they're going to ask you to program, make sure to download the software before the day of class starts. Like, I have so many stories. They're just like night before class, downloading software, computers not loading. Like, just save yourself some of that and just do it as it comes. Order your books too. That's also very important. I've had that happen where I just don't really order the books, or I get too overwhelmed, I forget. Make sure to stay on top of that stuff because that stuff does add up. And if you want a more enjoyable experience, take it as it comes. Like, just read it, download it, order it, everything you need to do so that way you just have a more peaceful experience than the one that I have had in the past. Learn from me and my really, really bad mistakes. Hopefully you won't repeat them. This is on the same topic as the last one, I think, which is just stay on top of your homework. So stay on top of your stuff at the beginning of class, but also as you start class, stay on top of your homework, and if possible, stay ahead of your homework. A friend of mine who's been on the podcast multiple times, she is a master at this, and I've always marveled at her, and she was always on top of her stuff and ahead of her work, and it just made her life as a dual enrollment student so much better. I had a very hard time doing that, I think because I didn't start early enough, but if you can, stay on top of your homework, stay ahead of your homework, so if you have questions, you have plenty of time to ask your friends or your teacher for help. Another great point. All right, on that also is don't wait to study for exams. At this point in my high school career, I had never taken a midterm, I had actually, but not a college level, midterm and final. My best advice on the topic of those two things is start early. Review your stuff every week that you've learned in the past so that way it stays fresh. So whenever your exam comes up and you realize that you haven't looked at this concept since week 1, you're not terrified because that has happened to me on multiple occasions. So stay on top of your stuff, especially if you are in a STEM class. I say this also from experience because that stuff adds up really, really, really quickly. And the final point is have fun. It's supposed to be a fun experience. I think your mindset whenever you approach these classes is very important because it will determine whether or not you have a wonderful experience or just a survival experience, because sometimes college can feel like just survival. Have fun, get to know people, ask questions, learn to overcome when you fail. I think a quote that I really, really clung to the entire time as a dual enrollment student was Winston Churchill's, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts." When you finish a class, especially a really hard one that you really had to push through to finish, the amount of satisfaction you receive at the end is so worth it. It really is. To put that on your college transcript, your high school transcript, and say, I did this, and going into college knowing you can do it, let me just say, it is a wonderful thing. So, in my opinion, it's a great, great experience. And it's not just my opinion when I say these things. I think every single high school student I've had on the podcast that has done dual enrollment classes has said the same thing. 1, it was just super fun. And 2, it's prepared them so well for college. They just have such a better feel and understanding for it. I think it is a great way for us as homeschoolers to prepare ourselves for college. It just is. And whenever we're faced with the stereotypes that homeschoolers cannot be prepared for college, this is just a fabulous way to be like, actually, we're taking college classes in high school. Like, we are fully prepared for college. So anyway, that's another episode. But I want to close with one more piece of advice. If you're a parent or if you're a student and you're worried that you are not prepared for college classes, let me just tell you that I fully wasn't prepared either. And I think that is a common theme, is that we actually are not ever fully prepared for this experience. But take anything in life, for example, that you start, you're not going to be fully prepared whenever you begin something. And for me, whenever I confronted struggles and difficulties in my classes, I automatically assumed and automatically went to, I'm not prepared, I'm not qualified, I can't do this. But over time, I began to realize that being prepared for me was not the absence of struggle, but the ability to overcome those struggles. So in that sense of the word, I was fully prepared for college. I did not give up. I pushed through. As an academic standpoint, I was fully prepared for my college classes. The rhythm and the pace of college was something I had to learn to adapt to, and that's something probably you will also have to learn to adapt to. Your homeschooling will look a lot different than it did before. That is an obvious thing, especially if you're in person because you're away from home a lot. But I can't stress this enough. Having my parents being still at home when facing the problems and the trials that come with a college class was so encouraging to me, and I don't know what I would have done had I not had that support system behind me. So doing these dual enrollment classes, preparing your kid or your student for college while you're still there to guide them is very, very cool, and something that I think should help all of us be more confident whenever we enter high schools. Why not have your parents behind you to help you whenever you're struggling than to just, be kind of alone whenever you do enter college? The most powerful way we as homeschoolers can prepare for college is to actually take college classes. That's it. That is it. I think even more, way more than just getting SAT or ACT or whatever. This is real life college experience. Not only are you dealing with academic stuff, you're also dealing with teachers, and you're also dealing with students, and also dealing with procrastination and structuring your time. Like, there's so many things beyond just the learning of the college level classes. Yes. So 4 main takeaways from my experience, I think, for you guys starting dual enrollment. The first one being, if you know how to learn, if you know how to adapt, you know how to be disciplined in your studies, and you expect this experience to be a little hard, then you will succeed as a dual enrollment student. In my opinion, and in the experience of others, these 4 things will lend to your success as a dual enrollment student. Honestly, in all seriousness, I learned a lot of these by just going and jumping headfirst into dual enrollment. These things were perfected, they were pushed, they were challenged whenever I was in this experience. Did I know fully what I was getting myself into when I started? No, but looking back, I wouldn't trade this experience for the world. Like I said, going into college next year, I have 1 semester done. I have narrowed down my major. I know how to study for exams. I know how to learn from different professors. I have good friends on campus, and I know campus already. I know what I'm getting myself into, and I know I can do it. To me, that is irreplaceable. And I know not everyone has a good experience with dual enrollment, but I have grown too much, and I have learned too much, and I have made too many good memories not to recommend it to you. You can do it. Let my story and all my failures and the stories of others that are on this podcast encourage you and push you to try this new experience and expect more from ourselves. We as high schoolers are capable of far more than what we think. If we allow our boundaries of what we assume high school is to be pushed and broken, you would be surprised at how much you are capable of. So I challenge you to try it out, to not do high school as Mr. Pudawa says, and to just start college and just see where it takes you. I mean, there is amazing opportunities for you out there. Dual enrollment is one of the best ways in which we can do high school differently, because it's pretty much just, changing the way we view high school. And I will end on this story that I heard as a dual enrollment student. In my teacher's office hours, I was sitting outside his office waiting for him to be done with another student, and I was listening to 4 college boys talking about their experience in high school, and they were all STEM majors. I think they were at least sophomores or juniors in college, so they've been in college for a while, and they were talking about high school, and they mentioned how they thought it was a waste of time. And then they went on to say, yeah, I think kids should just start college in high school, just start taking college classes. And I was sitting there thinking, they're quoting Mr. Andrew Pudawa, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it. They're quoting him. And I just thought, this is the best thing ever. And I have to share the story on the podcast because it just affirms, these were conventional school students, and they thought that their high school experience was in most part just a waste of time. Besides, they said algebra and pre-calculus they took in high school besides that, they really didn't see a lot of the point in just doing high school when you can just do college. So let that be an encouragement to you, that even they were able to recognize the opportunity that we have as homeschoolers, that we have so much ability to really, really take a hold of. So that is it for episode number 34 of How to Homeschool in High School, the episode where I did get to talk for 54 minutes. I'm sure it'll be less whenever I do release this episode, but as of now, I've been talking for 54 minutes on dual enrollment. But I hope that you have been encouraged and hopefully maybe even persuaded into pursuing the opportunity of dual enrollment. Please do get involved. If you do get involved, let me know how it goes. You can email me at hshighschoolpodcast@gmail.com. Please let me know your thoughts on dual enrollment, thoughts on this episode. If you know anyone who would benefit from hearing about dual enrollment, please share this episode to them. Hopefully we can continue to spread encouragement on our Doing High School Differently theme for this year. So I'm releasing this on Monday because I was behind last week, but this Friday we have a very, very special interview. That's all I'm going to say. It's kind of a surprise, so be sure to come back this Friday, and you will not be disappointed. Trust me. So until then, continue to be fearlessly different.